What's up, you guys? Aditi, welcome back. I have spoken about types of long-term memory, then different types of memory systems, and why we tend to forget our memories. But I never spoke about how do we retrieve information from our brain. So let's talk about that today. So my first point is retrieval cues. Retrieval cue is like a cue or a prompt to jog your memory, for you to remember something. That's retrieval cue. So if you have many retrieval cues for a particular information, it will be easier for you to retrieve that information from your memory. So I spoke about maintenance rehearsal before in a few memory videos I've made earlier. Maintenance rehearsal is nothing but learning by heart or memorizing, like ratta marna, what we do when we are studying. So that's maintenance rehearsal. What we are doing when we are ratta marofying, memorizing, is we are saying a piece of information over and over again, and that's how it gets stored in our long-term memory. And I also said that that is not the right way to put things in your memory, in your long-term memory, because you just have one retrieval cue. So like I said, if you have many retrieval cues for a particular information that's in your long-term memory, it will be easier for you to retrieve it. So retrieval cue can be anything. It can be anything that's in your surrounding. The example that has been given in my textbook is if you are watching a particular TV show while eating peanuts, some other time when you are eating peanuts, you will think about or you will remember, it will just come to you, whatever that show that you were watching the other day while eating peanuts. So the peanuts is actually the retrieval cue here. You didn't compulsorily, intentionally try to remember something like this. Your brain just creates associations and connections, and that's how it works. Okay, so let's talk about the second point, which is encoding specificity. So when you are first forming the memory and when this memory is retrieved, both these actions are done in a same or similar surrounding, or when you are in a same or similar kind of a psychological state, it will be easier for you to remember that piece of information. It will be easier to retrieve that memory from your brain. So for example, if you have studied a particular subject in one classroom, and if you take a test or an exam of that subject in the same classroom, it will be easier for you to remember. It'll be easier and it'll be better for you to retrieve information from your memory, and obviously in turn your performance will be better in that subject. So you can remember more easily when that memory is first formed and when it is being retrieved. Both of these actions are done in a same or similar surrounding. Then it is known as context dependent learning. So there is another thing just like context dependent learning. It's known as state dependent learning. So you can easily remember information when that memory is first formed and when it is being retrieved. Both of these actions are done when you are in a same psychological state. So there was a study done where the subjects were asked to read and sort of memorize a list of words while listening to happy music, and also another list of words while they were listening to sad music. When it was time to recall, the researchers manipulated their mood. Sometimes they made them happy and sometimes they made them sad. So when the subject's mood was manipulated into being happy, the subjects were able to retrieve words from the list that they had read when they were listening to happy music, but not so many words from the list that they were listening to when they were listening to sad music. And even the opposite was very true. When the manipulated mood was sad, they could retrieve a lot of words from the list when they were listening to sad music, but not so much from the list that they were reading when they were listening to happy music. Okay, so there are two kinds of retrieval of memories. One is recall and second is recognition. The easiest way to remember is recall is basically your essay type questions, and recognition is like your MCQs, true or false, match the following. We'll come back to recognition, but let's talk about recall first. Recall is what we us were talking about this whole time, retrieving piece of information from your brain. When you're trying to do that, you are trying to recall that information, and sometimes we struggle with this. Sometimes we just cannot remember that piece of information, and that's when we can say that recall has failed, at least temporarily, because the second we stop thinking about it consciously, we subconsciously continue working on it, and out of nowhere the answer just presents itself. It just pops in our head. Anyway, sometimes the answer seems so close, like we feel like it's at the tip of our tongue, and such a phenomenon, we call it as tip of the tongue phenomenon or TOT phenomenon. And people would say things like they know how long that word is, they know the beginning and the end letter of the word, but they still cannot, they as in we still cannot remember the sound or the spelling of the whole word. Another thing about recall is serial position effect. It's basically when we remember the beginning part of the information and the end part of the information, but we just cannot remember the middle. This is known as serial position effect, and serial position effect is of two types. First, we'll talk about is primacy effect, where we tend to easily remember the beginning part of the information, or let's just say list from the list of words. We remember the beginning words better, easily, than whatever actually follows. And this is because when you start listening to that list or when you start reading that list, there is nothing in your short-term memory. So when the first few words enter your short-term memory, there is nothing in your short-term memory, and due to which these first few words get far more rehearsal time than the middle words or whatever comes after these first few words. So when the other words, like the middle part or whatever, when it is entering your short-term memory, it keeps on getting replaced by the information that is coming after it, and due to which it does not get that much of rehearsal time. The second type of serial position effect is recency effect. Primacy effect, recency effect. Primacy effect means it was the beginning, the first few words in the list, and then recency effect is the end, the last few words of the list. So what happens here is that when the last words enter your short-term memory, there is nothing else that is going to interfere with those words. So they get again far more rehearsal time than whatever is in the middle, because the words in the middle keeps on getting replaced by the information or the other words that are entering in the short-term memory. So it's easier for us to remember the first few pieces of information and then the last parts or body of information. Now coming to recognition. Like I already said that recall is essay type question and recognition is MCQ. So I think you understand what is analogy of MCQ, because in MCQ you have these options and you just have to choose or pick the right one. You just have to remember that this is the right one. So that's what recognition is. You already have that information in your brain and you just have to match it with the information that you are seeing right in front of you. And that's very easy to do as compared to essay type questions, where you have to literally pull the information out of your brain out of nowhere with very few retrieval cues, and hence essay type questions are really hard, or even the fill in the blank which have no MCQs or kind of cues to help you out, whereas true or false, match the following, and multiple choice questions, MCQs, they are very easy. Recognition is very accurate when it comes to images, especially human faces. So there was a study conducted where more than 2,500 photographs were shown to participants for at the rate of 1 every 10 seconds. Then the pair of photographs were shown again to them, where one person out of the pair was from the earlier photographs, and the accuracy of the participants recognizing that face or that person was around 85 to 90%. But just because you could recognize a piece of information doesn't mean that information is correct, because recognition is not always foolproof, because there could be enough similarity between the stimulus that you're seeing and that's not in your memory and the information that is in your memory, and this is when a false positive occurs. A false positive occurs when a person thinks that it recognizes something or someone, or even recalls something or someone, when in fact does not have that something or someone in their memory. And that is it for today's video. I hope this video was helpful. Go ahead and check the information processing model to understand a lot more about long-term memory, and even the forgetting video, like how we forget without forgetting. Please give this video a big thumbs up before you head to my other videos, and subscribe to this channel for more psychology and mental health content. I'll see you next Friday with another psychology video.